Hello, lovers. I'm Tracy from Totally Not Taboo. This is a space where we talk about sex and sexuality that is considered taboo. So we're very, very excited to have today on our podcast Xoli Madlala. Xoli is the menopause advocate, and she's the author of the Perimenopausal Globetrotter. She is a public speaker. She's actually just told us that she recorded in December with TEDx, and it's soon to be released. So, wow. We're very proud to have her here. And she is she has a vast knowledge and experience with menopause. She works with corporates, groups, churches, individuals, and couples. And her goal is to change the menopause narrative in South Africa and in Africa and transform spaces to be menopause inclusive. Love that. She has recently been appointed as a partner and ambassador for Dahlia, an organization that focuses on South African women menopause research. Sunday World named her a heroic woman in health 2024. The Feature magazine recognized her on their 50 Memorable Women 2024 list. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So I'm not going to continue reading your bio. It is very, very, very impressive. But I would rather just chat.
Yes, let's chat.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here because this topic is actually very close to my heart. Since I'm not sure where I am. I'm either perimenopausal or menopausal. And it's a very confusing time in my life because I don't know what is going on with my body. And even though I've tried to read up on things, I just am not kind of getting a real sense of what is going on in my body. Like, what is the difference between perimenopause and menopause? We're also going to look at intimacy, sexual intimacy with couples. We're going to look at what happens to us women from all aspects, a very broad spectrum of what happens to us women as we go through this change in life. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I am so glad that we are finally having this conversation. I've been waiting for this. And I love that you are saying we need to lay the foundation because these terminologies can get confusing for most women because most of us grow up not having any education around this last important phase of life. So if you would like me to start by doing exactly that, I can.
Sure. Please.
I always say that we need to simplify this because, everybody can get online and sometimes it is filled with medical jargon, which makes the confusion more. Simple example, there is puberty, and then the opposite of puberty is menopause. Puberty, a girl starts going on her periods. Menopause, the periods stop. If a girl has sex, once they've reached puberty, they will fall pregnant. Menopause, a woman is no longer going to fall pregnant naturally. Their fertility comes to an end in that sense. The natural ages for menopause is from 45 to 55. And if menopause happens from the ages of 40 to 44, it is called early menopause. And anything that is younger than 40, then it's premature menopause. And when I say younger, it can be in 30s, it can be in 20s. And the youngest case that is known, she was 13 and 14 when her period stopped. She is from the UK, Annabelle, for those that are interested in looking her up. And because, as you mentioned, that I'm working with Dahlia and I get into conversations with medical experts here in South Africa because we always need to hear South African stories. The youngest one that I've heard of, she was 16. And the curiosity obviously is more because I'm hoping one day we'll get to the rural areas because normally this research is normally done in the urban areas and who knows what we can discover there. And then a woman is deemed to have reached menopause when they've had 12 months straight without a period. And when I say 12 months straight, it's easy for most women to calculate. And then when they think, oh, I haven't seen my periods for like 7-9 months, they think they've reached menopause. But it needs to be a consecutive 12 months without a break in between. Then they can say they've reached menopause. And for women that are, say, on the loop as a form of contraceptive, normally they're not getting their periods. It is then very important that they know as many of the other symptoms so that if they see certain changes, then they can start paying attention and start connecting the dots.
Can you just pause there for a second? What are the other symptoms?
Okay. The list of the symptoms actually keeps increasing because menopause used to be under-researched. But now more interest is being garnered because women are saying that we are no longer going to go through this phase of life in silence. So we know the popular hot flashes because normally when it happens, you are bound to see it. It's not something that you can hold it inside. So there is the physical changes, whether it's hair thinning, hair falling off. And most women normally would be quick to blame their hair care products or the hairstylist. Others, they struggle with ringing in the ears, tinnitus.
Oh, God, yes.
Others, dry eyes, and they start using eye drops, wanting to go to the optometrist because they are struggling. Because during this phase of life, hormones are going haywire, estrogen is depleting, and it is responsible for our overall functioning. Hence, the symptoms are a lot. Others, they're struggling with dry skin. Suddenly, the product that you've always used, it's no longer effective. Like in the middle of the day, you look at your skin, you're like, why am I so dry? As if I did not apply anything. Others struggle with digestive issues, the unexplainable weight gain. You're still eating the same way. You've got this pooch that is just refusing to go away. Joint ache. You used to love doing your cardio. You could jump box at a heartbeat. Suddenly you're like, oh my God, the aches. You used to love your high heel shoes. Now you're struggling. And this is just the bare minimum that I'm mentioning for the physical list. Then there's the emotional ones. Most women will complain of low mood. Or when they go to the doctor, sometimes they'll say that, you know what, doctor, there's something, they'll point to the chest.
Yeah.
There's something that is sitting here.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but there's just something. Others struggle with irritability. Like their partner chewing, sometimes they're like, oh my God, your chewing is so loud. Can you just stop it? Others, they can struggle with mood swings. 1 minute, they're fine. Hence, even in the workplace, others, they start getting labeled. Like, we can't keep up with her. She works up, she is peppy one moment. The next minute you approach her at her desk, then she is all thunder and lightning. Then people start avoiding you. Weepy, wanting to cry for anything and everything. Then let us move to the psychological ones. And those are the ones that hardly get spoken about. And that's when also you find most women sometimes being misdiagnosed with depression because there is climacteric depression. Just like with periods, some women struggle with PMS and all of that. They say, like, I'm feeling depressed. But normally that will happen maybe just for a few days before their period. And then once the period is done, then that's it. But with this menopause transition, it's different because it's a transition, it's a phase that women are there for a long period of time. Others, it can take a few years because, as we say, the ebb and flow of the periods to eventually get to 12 months straight without a period, it can take a number of years.
Should women then go on to an antidepressant, or should they kind of like wait it out because it's a common symptom?
Firstly, some of the doctors will prescribe antidepressants, saying that they do help with some of the additional symptoms. But it is always best to firstly get the information, be empowered, because once you are informed, then you are able to make certain lifestyle changes. For example, insomnia is one of the symptoms, the night sweats, the endless bathroom trips, which affects a woman's then night's rest. And we know that if you have not slept properly, then your cognition is messed up, you are moody, you are irritable, you are all of those things. So if that is the struggle and it's more of a hormonal thing, it is best, firstly, to look at what you can change. Look at your sleep hygiene. Maybe then you need to be intentional to say that, okay, fine, I need to sleep earlier. I need to cut off having drinks, say maybe before 6, so that I don't have to get up and go to the bathroom, because when I come back, I struggle to fall asleep. Minimize screen time, because when insomnia is there, people get on social media, they're asking others who else is struggling to sleep, or they come back from the bathroom, they want to look at the phone, then the blue light then it disturbs their ability to be able to fall into sleep. Things like alcohol, others will say that, oh no, alcohol does help me sleep, but then the quality of sleep is not good. So it is important to look at alternative approaches. Be sure that it is not due to this phase of life that you are feeling depressed, but indeed it is clinical depression. Because as I was explaining, the ages of menopause, that if you find someone in their 30s and they go to the doctor and they say that they are depressed, because premature menopause hardly gets spoken about, the doctor might be quick to prescribe antidepressants without checking. And it is recommended that if you are younger than 45, you do not just tick boxes like, okay, I know these symptoms, they're pointing to menopause. You need to do all the right tests to eliminate all other possibilities, whether it's thyroid issues, in anything else. So we are the generation of Google, and sometimes you click to just log on and be like, tick, tick, but you need to go do the right tests.
Something that's like niggling me, I hate to go back so far, but the transition from into menopause, you say that it has to be a year, 12 months, where you don't have any period.
Yes.
Could you still feel PMS, like sensitive breasts, and then the mood and emotional, and still experience PMS?
Yes. Actually, the list is over 100. And what
God.
you've mentioned, because like for example, in my book, I just quoted the 34 that used to be the most spoken about. But as time moves and more research is being done, women raising their voices, because we're all different. Then others present with different, like others struggle with things like phantom smells. Suddenly they're like, is something burning? What is that smell? And as you're mentioning, others will say that my ringing in the ears is not ringing, but it's more of like a whirling sound, which is why it is important that we know. And just to give the name also, because you've mentioned the transition is perimenopause, because now we've spoken about menopause, which is the cessation of the periods. Then the years that are leading to the cessation, this moment, it is perimenopause. And then once the women have reached this 12 months, then medically, they are deemed to be in post-menopause, and that's where they're going to be for the rest of their lives, because then the periods are not going to come back. Some of the symptoms might go away. Newer symptoms might come up, because by that time, the woman is operating or existing with minimal estrogen, because the ovaries have, I'm using inverted commas, gone to sleep. And that is when also some women can explore then the option of things like hormone replacement treatment, depending on how much their struggles are. And there's another group also that will say that even if now we are normalizing this menopause conversation, but nobody talks about the other side when you've reached menopause.
Yes.
The positives of it, because normally menopause is deemed to be such a heavy subject, and it seems like, oh my God, everything is all doom and gloom. But then there's the positives that also come with it, which we will touch on, I guess, as we continue with this conversation.
Sure.
And then there's chemically induced menopause. That is when someone has cancer, and then they have to do certain treatments, whether it's chemotherapy, radiation, then it leads them to chemically induced menopause. And then there's surgically induced menopause, when a woman has had certain surgeries, whether it's hysterectomies. Especially these days now, that is rife because of the growing numbers of women struggling with cysts, struggling with fibroids and all of that. And then normally they are advised to go for those procedures. And one of the missions is for women to know as much as possible, because some of them, they will agree to these procedures not fully understanding what they mean, because sometimes language barrier plays a huge role. Normally we speak about this in English, but that only speaks to a certain group of people, which is one of my missions, to say that we need to be able to have these conversations in all vernacular languages. Like with the TEDx, I came up with a Zulu name for menopause, because we don't have a specific name. We explain this phase of life, but there's no proper specific name. Others will call it maybe Fazi, which is just womanhood. Then it does not really say much. In Sotho, they'll call it Sisadi, or to exit periods. And I called it Ukagaza, which means to bloom. Oh. To bloom, it's a positive word. Hence, even the cover of my book has got flowers around the reproductive organs of a woman. Puberty is called Ukutomba, which is to sprout. Then to bloom, I thought like it connects to it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Really, really beautiful. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Because at the moment it feels a little bit like gloom and doom for me. Yeah. So when does the weight thing, because that will affect women's self-esteem.
Yeah.
It affects sexual intimacy.
Yep.
And it's a big thing. Also, I've noticed that like some women do and some women don't. Like I remember when I was going through my pregnancies, some women got huge and some women didn't. And I thought, like, what is it? Why does it happen to some? And I mean, I've got the typical shape of, I must be in perimenopause, but I'm not quite sure. So when does that happen? Does it happen through perimenopause in that year? Does it happen in menopause? Oh, also I wanted to ask about the HRT. Does that add weight,
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll pack some of those questions. So one of the things that we must be mindful of, just like with periods and pregnancy, every woman's experience is going to be different. And just like some girls, they'll say that the first 2 days of my periods are a nightmare. I can't even go to school. Others breeze into it. Then others will have like mild symptoms, but they continue to show up for life, same as pregnancy. Other women like glowing throughout their pregnancy. Others, they'll say, after that first pregnancy, I vowed not to go down that route because of their struggle. Same as menopause, 25% of women will breeze into menopause. And I'm saying that also always mindful, because some women think that they breezed into menopause because they did not get the expected symptoms. They thought that, because I did not get hot flashes, I did not get the weight gain, but they were struggling maybe with allergies. Suddenly, they've also have got UTIs and all of those things. But because they were not aware, as you were talking about things like your sore breasts, they're not directly mentioned whenever menopause is spoken about, then they think that they breezed into it. Then 50% of women will get mild to moderate symptoms. Then there's the last 25% whose lives will be turned upside down. And that's the spectrum that I fell under. Hence, I really felt like I needed to get into this advocacy work. I needed to do my bit to change the menopause narrative, because it almost cost me my life.
Sure.
Because as I said, that I was... depression is one of the symptoms, and I got to that point and I was suicidal. Anyway, so to go back then to responding to the weight gain and all of that. Most of these symptoms, they happen during perimenopause, but most women are not aware of them because periods normally are still regular. And they just learn to coexist with it, make certain changes, adjust their clothes sizes and all of that, but not really paying attention to it. But the more we have these conversations, it is very evident because, as I say, relatability and real lived experience always is the best, I guess, confirmer of anything. Women do experience a lot during their perimenopause because the hormones, that's when they are really going haywire. Unlike when you are in postmenopause, normally then they've stabilized. Hence, I was saying that some of the positives is when some of these symptoms go away, women come into their own, like the mood swings, they go away. Now you're not dealing with the cycle changes, like all these follicular, luteal, like that come with the normal menstrual cycle. You're no longer getting that. So you're more stable, you're more calmer, you're more cool. And your body also has reached that plateau. And also you've learned to understand how your body works. For example, when you're young, you can get away with eating certain foods anyhow. And you know that if you need to lose weight, you can just do whatever that would work for you, and you know that 7 days I've shed off the weight.
Yeah.
But now as you hit perimenopause, because the hormones are haywire, then whatever that you thought worked, it no longer works. And that is why it's called a rebirth also, because the body almost like rediscovers itself, and it teaches you also how to take care of it. And normally that's when you embrace a more of a healthier lifestyle, because now you are wanting to get to your optimum best. And our bodies tell us what it needs.
It's amazing that, hey? Yeah, it's almost intuitive.
Yeah. I always say our bodies are always talking to us.
Sure.
It's up to us to pay attention. Because with me, I struggled for years with perimenopause, not being aware, always putting the symptoms to one thing or another, because I never knew that there was a thing called premature menopause. I'm in my 30s, living my best life. I see the symptoms, keep looking at them in isolation and excuse them. For example, if it's insomnia, I'll say, oh no, it's because I was in Australia. So now I'm back as the time zone changes. Lactose intolerance is like, maybe the street food that I bought, whether in Hong Kong or in India, it was not prepared properly. That's why I've got the terms and all of that. And if we then know better, then we listen to our gut instincts when you're like, no, but why am I suddenly being like this? But we silence our voice, our gut instinct. And that's when also some women think that they're losing their minds, because sometimes as perimenopause is happening, you don't have a name for it. You know something is wrong, something is off. You go to the doctor, you try to explain. And if you are consulting with a doctor that is not well versed in this phase of life, then they can look at you and think like, no, there's something that is going on with you. For example, in the UK, they even used to call it a WW, whiny woman.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, that's what they will call
Wow.
women, because it's like they're whining, because the symptoms are a lot. And when they do the test, sometimes the tests, they come up clear. For example, heart palpitations. Some women will think, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. They rush to ER. Tests are done. Everything comes clear, because it's more of a hormonal thing. And then they're like, am I? Sore breasts. They think breast cancer, what's going on? They go do tests. Tests are coming back clear. Then they start doubting themselves, and then they start withering, becoming these wallflowers, struggling in silence.
So I'll tell you a little story. A while back, I was seeing this couple, and this woman was out of control. She was so angry with her husband. He couldn't even look at her. When he walked in the door from work, she hated him. She was always hating him. And we looked at depression. We looked at, we didn't look at hormones, but we looked at a lot of like childhood stuff, because that's where I go, straight to childhood, and what is he triggering in her? What is she triggering in him? He, at times, he even came to see me alone. He said, I don't know what to do. Like, it's too terrible. And it was just chaos. And then I didn't see them for a while. And the one day I bumped into her at the shops. And she said to me, you won't believe it. She said, I'm in perimenopause. I'm it's all menopause. She said she's stuck on that HRT what do you call patch?
Yes.
She is like a different person. She is, and I hugged her. I said, and you know, we all said it's her. She's the problem. And she said, I know I'm the problem. I just don't know what to do. I mean, I hate him. And they've got like young kids and they didn't want to get divorced, but she just didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do with her. Her family didn't know what to do with her. And when I bumped into her and she told me that she went to see a doctor, or I don't know how it was discovered, and she put on that patch, she said...
She regained herself.
She's never... She cannot believe how cruel she was. She has apologized to him over and over and over again because she now sees that she was really, really sick.
You know, in chapter 25 of the book, it's dedicated to men. And I share this other article from Catherine Collas from the UK. Men were just sharing their experiences with their partners, because I wanted men to understand that what they're going through during this phase of life, for those that are struggling, it is not just relative just to them only. They need to see that other people are struggling with it, but it is important that they also be part of these conversations. They need to learn as much as possible so that they know how to support their partner, that they know also when to give them space, they know when to crack jokes, because I mean, humor does play a huge role in lightening some of these moments, but also it's in the timing. It is men that will notice these changes sometimes before women. Because, I mean, they coexist with women on a closer proximity. For example, when I was at UJ the other time speaking to the staff and the students, one lady said to me, you know, Xoli, I did a number of tests. It was during the pandemic. And everything that was coming back as a diagnosis was not it. Up until her husband told her about me, she's like, you know what, I think it might be menopause. And her first response was like wanting to, no, it can't be, because we don't like hearing about menopause. Worse if it's coming from your partner, because most women want to be seen by their partner as this evergreen person that is never going to reach menopause. So she was initially offended, but then she told herself that she needs to calm down, check out what this Xoli woman is about. And that's when she was able to connect her dots. So men, they pick up certain changes first. As I say, sometimes like she's becoming more snappier than normal. I was once dating someone, before I even knew what was happening, he was touching my arm and he asked me, "You're feeling clammy, what's going on?" Because I did not know what was going on. I had to find a quick answer. And I said to him, I think I'm coming down with flu. Only in hindsight did I connect that it was the early onset of hot flushes and just getting all hot and all of that. So once men know, and also children, because children do also spend a lot of time with their mothers. For example, a mom that is struggling with brain fog, forgetfulness, women have forgotten to pick up their children at school or driven past with them, and they get to the parking lot at the office and they're like, why are you still here? It's like, oh, and then they forgot. So sometimes even children can mention some of the things that they are mentioning. And that's when also you find certain households getting disturbed in how they function, because maybe the kids have reached teenagehood. They're dealing with their hormonal changes. The mother also is perimenopausal. And then the father also, normally, I mean, we hardly speak about it, but as men also get older, they go through their own midlife changes. That testosterone also is decreasing, and it comes with its own issues. So you find the man, when he parks, he sits in the car, in the garage for a while before coming in, and the teenagers have locked themselves in their room, and the mom is maybe in the kitchen chopping away, complaining with that she's the one that is doing everything. Nobody is. And you have to force them to come and sit together around the dinner table if ever you're going to win. Otherwise, people are existing like silos.
Yeah.
But all of that can be navigated if these conversations are had. Everybody gets to learn the information that is relevant to them. For example, there was this other mother-daughter duo at gym. The mother struggled with her menopause transition while the daughter breezed into it. So she had to eventually get on hormone replacement treatment, and we'll quickly explain if time permits what that is. But she had to get on hormone replacement treatment because she used to be so moody, irritable, shouting and all of that. So they had to sit the grandchildren down to say that, okay, grandmother is going through this, and now she's going to start taking these pills to help her. So now even when they would do something wrong, and she has every right to scold them, they'll ask like, did you take your pills today, Grandma? And it's like, no. You cannot be using that as a get out of jail card now. If you deserve to be scolded, you're still going to be scolded. But it is beautiful to hear such stories where families can have such conversations applicable to each age group.
Well, it sounds like I need to start having those conversations with my children. But the problem with me is that I've always been a little bit batty. Mm-hmm. I've always been crazy. Mm-hmm. So I can't imagine my behavior being much different. I'm often saying to myself, oh, Tracy, you're so special. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're special. You really are special. Because the things that I do, I will be forgetful, move something, can't find it, put it somewhere. And when I do notice these things, I go, oh, you're just so special. Because ultimately, it's like I'm crazy and I'm loopy. So, but you're right. I think I need to start telling everyone.
I think once I signed my book, Informed Equals Empowered, because once you are informed, then you're able also to check yourself when certain things are like, am I really going off? Because there is a need to go off. It's more of a hormonal thing. Because once also, even if you've gone off, if you know, firstly, you will be met with more compassion. And also, to go back and say that it really had nothing to do with you. And then existence becomes much more better. And this also translates to the workplace because with the work that I do with corporate SA to get it to be more menopause inclusive, we keep talking about toxic workplaces, and people sometimes talk about horrible female bosses. And when you normally look, normally this happens during perimenopause for most women. They are taking all their career goals, they're getting these promotions, and perimenopause rears its head.
Sure.
And then people say that, oh no, she changed the moment she got to that position. But it's because this position actually coincided with this change also in her reproductive phase. It had nothing to do with it. I always like using real life stories. I had a conversation with another lady. On Tuesdays, I would normally do Instagram lives for relatability because I didn't want it to always be a Xoli story. We need to hear as many diverse experiences. And she was losing her hair, but it was growing in the wrong places. As you know, some women will start like, I'm not growing a beard, or it's growing in my chest, So her hair was growing in her beard, and she was moody, irritable, and like a horrible person, just to put it, I guess, more, yeah. And she says staff were complaining about her, but they didn't say anything to her, so they reported her. So they called into the office. They asked, how is life? How is she doing? Does she struggle with anything? Does she need a coach? They're willing to do that. Then it eventually led her, obviously, to fully hearing how staff had been experiencing her as a leader. Others were even making comments to say that, oh my God, she's behaving like a man. She's already growing a beard. She may as well just wear pants and all of that. And it was like, that hurt.
Yeah.
But it painted the picture of how dire things were for her. And that's when she set up and like, I need to go find out what is going on with me. I cannot just say, this is who I am, take me as I am. And that's when she found out that she was perimenopausal. Then she could make the changes, go make amends where she could, and introduce also conversations, because the more leaders mask off and share their experiences, then it gives the other staff to share that this is also my struggle. This is what I'm going through. Then you find that people, then when they feel like they can speak up, then they thrive better. They show up at work. Instead of booking off, now they know that, okay, fine, the support is there. I can pick up and request to maybe come to work later because I struggled with insomnia, but I'm going to make sure that my deliverables are there, or I'm going to work up until late to make up for it. And others can now say that, I know that we have aircon battles in the office. May I then swap my desk from being like in that far corner to be closer to the window? Then I'm not going to be having any aircon fights, say like, let's crank up the aircon when I'm getting my personal summers. So change happens when we are able to have conversations after we are informed.
Sure, that is really, really, wow. I love the information you're giving me and you're giving our listeners. We might have to actually have a part 2.
Because that's what I'm thinking. We haven't even talking about the intimacy part and all of these things.
I know. Maybe we can just touch on for now the taboo.
Okay.
Where does the taboo come in also around sexual intimacy?
Okay. Firstly, I think it's important to mention that even with the Dahlia study and also other universal studies, that different races, ethnic groups, they have got different taboos for different reasons. We are also living in a society which promotes youthfulness. It's like, oh my God, when you see your first strand of gray hair, some women almost sometimes break into tears because what does this mean? My life is over the hill. And as some of these changes present themselves, then they feel like their place in society is gone. They do not have much to bring because, normally for women, their fertility is almost like a badge of honor. The moment you are no longer able to have bear children, it's like something, a portion of your womanhood is gone. And can you imagine then if it happens to a woman in their 30s via premature menopause or early menopause, then indeed it's something that can be shameful for some women, especially if they still were hoping to have children and they're not married. They wonder then who is going to look at them in that sense? Where is their femininity? Which is why then it's important that women understand that their femininity is not tied up to their ability to have children. It is not tied to which phase of life they are at. You are a wholesome human being at any age. Getting older actually is a privilege that most people are not granted. So when you reach menopause, then you can still look at it like, Lord, if that's who you subscribe to, universe, I've been kept long enough to reach this phase of life. I've garnered wisdom that can only be accumulated with getting older. I'm like more financially stable because, you might have youth, but normally that's when you're still establishing yourself in your career, you're living off credit cards, the debt. But normally when you're older, you have amassed so much. You've got career growth, you've got life's experiences and all of that. And those are some of the things that we hardly actually focus on as the badges of honor of life. And then, yes, there is the symptoms that affect women's also sexuality, whether others will struggle with low libido, which, as I say, some others, their libido actually shoots through the roof also during this phase of life. Others struggle with vaginal dryness. So the thought of sex, it just leaves them cold. Someone used to say, one of my friends, like, oh, sometimes I'll wait for my husband to fall asleep before I go to bed. I'll watch TV almost up until there's nothing to watch. But as long as when I get to bed, he is sleeping. And it's like, I love my husband. I want to have sex, but just the thought of the pain that comes with it. And if then we're not normalizing these conversations and giving like how to navigate this, what options to look out, then couples can start drifting off apart from each other. Because we know that, as much as sex is not the foundation of marriages or relationships, but also it plays a huge role in bringing couples together. And also when a man is looking at the partner and she's going through loss of libido, he might start wondering, like, is it directly linked to me? And that's when sometimes then some men, for validation, they might start stepping out, looking for somebody else that they feel like this person still sees me, because they feel like my woman does not see me if she does not want to be touched. Or maybe also he can think that she is getting it somewhere else. When she is mentioning late night meetings, he might start getting suspicious that she doesn't want me to touch her. Could she be getting it somewhere else, which can further cause strife in relationships? And you spoke about the weight gain. Then the whole self-image gets affected. Now the woman is thinking like, who am I? I'm no longer the woman that he fell in love with. But then if conversations are not had, for the partner to sometimes saying, oh yeah, you might be gaining weight, but my hair also is falling off. I'm losing my muscle mass. So we are going through this differently, but we are navigating this. Then she can feel like, oh wow, actually he is also going through his own changes. How about I also hear from him, how is this making him feel? Other men are also struggling with erectile dysfunction during this time because testosterone is declining. But if conversations are not had, then couples continue to drift apart. And that's when some of the women that I've spoken to, they'll say that, you know what, my divorce shouldn't maybe have happened if I had known what I know now. Because women just like shrink and be like, no. But others also, they might have obviously valid reasons to say that, you know what, I had stayed for the children. And now that the children, because menopause happens when children are at that age, normally they are leaving school, they're starting their new chapters, then the mother is like, actually, I no longer need to be here. I no longer have to stay because maybe I want to provide like a nuclear family for them. But for the ones that menopause really did a number for them, then they should not have been part of the divorce statistics.
100%. So there is, while you're speaking, I'm just thinking how the couple dynamics that I see are not even menopausal, and yet they are the same dynamics, you know, low libido in their 30s. Both men and women, and avoiding sex for other reasons, you know, like guilt and shame.
And stress also.
And stress. And not not being in touch with their sexuality, not having a positive attitude towards sex and sexuality for various reasons, right? And so if they've managed with a good, healthy sex life up until this point, well then, I'm like so happy. Well, yeah, I'm happy because I haven't seen them in my practice yet, you know. So then we have to start at, it's more than midlife these days, and start to have these conversations with couples. Unfortunately, I'm seeing them a lot earlier.
I call these conversations that you're referring to menopause preparation conversations. We, unfortunately, some of us did not have the privilege of being prepared for menopause in time. We had to scurry around when things got bad to like, oh my God, what is going on? But for the next generation, we need to do better, as you say. These conversations need to be normalized. In the book, I've got 19 reasons as to why I wrote it. And one of the reasons is like, even like Department of Education have got a role to play. They need to educate kids from a young age about this last phase of life, so that this shame and the stigma that is tied to menopause is removed from a young age. Every boy child grows up knowing that there's this phase of life. So he's not going to be that man that suddenly looks at a menopausal woman and be like, oh no, you're over the hill, because they get it.
Unfortunately, we have to deal with puberty first.
Yes. And then also...
and then we're fighting a big battle.
So
really, menstruation, and that is... I believe that the education system is failing our girls.
There's a lot that is left out. I make a joke that we were taught to draw a locust, be able to name a locust. And it's information that most of us have never had to use anywhere else in life.
Absolutely.
Like, really. Instead of being taught important, real life information that is gonna serve us better as we go through life. And yes, it's very important though to normalize these conversations before time.
Yeah.
Because as you say, also with a generation that is struggling with so much, the foods that we eat, most of it is poison to us.
Yeah.
Hence, we struggle with so many reproductive issues. The products that we're using are laden with toxins. We're not spending enough time in sunlight, which plays a huge role. We're not talking enough. There's so much power in talk therapy, you know. We carry things up until like we reach boiling point before. I always make an example that couples are comfortable getting naked physically to have sex before they can get naked emotionally,
Absolutely.
mentally. And
Sure.
if that the roles were reversed, then we'll find that couples are able to navigate even the most difficult of things because they've created that intimacy of being able to look into each other, be transparent, be vulnerable, knowing that, this is the closest person to me. I should be able then to speak to them. So what? I'm gaining weight. So what? I'm getting a hot flash mid action. Doesn't mean what does it mean?
Wow.
Do we stop?
Yeah.
Like what? Am I embarrassed? Does he get a fan? He fans me. We laugh about it and we keep it moving.
Yeah.
And we had a very interesting off-ramp conversation the other time because normally when we speak about vaginal dryness, we'll speak about it from the side of the woman. And I had that, people are like, I'm not a man, I'll never be a man. But I was like, what do men feel when they're trying to have sex during that time? Do they get cuts? Because, it's uncomfortable. It's dry. And, you don't have maybe lubricants. You're not clued up about those things. But because you've got this erection, you have got this mindset that we're going to have sex. But what is it like for a man? And if he loses his erection also during that time, there's that expectation that he must be able to get it back up at a split second. But what does it do for him also psychologically? So the conversation that comes to the fore of menopause, sex, intimacy, and everything else is also very broad.
Yeah.
And there's, as we spoke about, the erectile dysfunction that comes with it also. Then this woman is wanting it maybe that day. Then the mindfulness that comes also with how you look at your partner, because he cannot get it up when you were ready. What is that doing to him at that time?
Performance anxiety,
yes,
sure.
And all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so multifaceted and it's a lot to think about. You've given me a fortune of information. And I think that's what I wanted to get out of this. Thank you so much. And I'm sure that our listeners have got a lot out of this as well. As I said, I prefer talking than reading in some instances. It's much easier to feel more personally connected with somebody and have conversations about information than rather having to sit and read data and facts. And research. So, Xoli, I really have enjoyed speaking to you. And I get a sense as well that the shame for women is, like I can just imagine in my mind's eye, a woman sweating with this fan going and she's feeling quite ashamed that she's really, her hair's sticking to her neck and she's really uncomfortable and feeling very shameful for what she's going through. And that's the picture that I have in my mind. And society does need to be a little bit more empathetic and more understanding about what is going on for women at certain ages.
It's so, so true.
Yeah. So you were going to say something.
No, in my mind, I just had a quick one. My ex once said to me, having walked the journey with me back then, he could identify a hot flashing woman in a heartbeat, like whether it's at Woolies sometimes, opening a fridge, as if they're looking for something. And it's like, I can tell that they're not looking for something, but they're just trying to get that relief.
Yes.
And then he will say that with him now knowing what he does, trying to get a conversation and that empathetic ear, they will be so shocked first,
Yes.
like, why? How do you know?
Yeah.
And then he'll tell them that, no, my partner is in the space, so I know about it. Then the relief, and then they will mask off a bit. So yeah, it's a lot. I mean,
just if we can end on this,
Yes.
maybe something else is coming up for me. When I want to make contact with a woman who I think is struggling because I see her sweating and with the fan and whatever it is, let's say perspiring, beautiful princesses, ladies, queens. I kind of feel like I'm being intrusive if I wanted to say, are you going through, okay, now we're going to go blossoming. Are you blossoming? Or are you going through the stage of life? Are you going through menopause? Like I find, just like everything in life, if it's personal to someone, it can be intrusive and invasive. But if we are able to have these open conversations with each other as women, then I can say, oh my God, you're also going through hell, blossoming. And she can say, oh, me too. And then we can have this little conversation. But I feel that I can't do that with someone. There is that embarrassment around it.
I think Menopause approach plays a huge role because, for example, yet again, another gentleman that I've worked with, he's retired. He used to be an executive in HR. Now he does coaching. And he said to me, Xoli, I can't believe that I was a leader for so many years and I've never known anything about this.
Sure.
How did women fare through it? Fast forward a few weeks ago, I was home in KZN. He calls me. He's like, thank you so much for the education. Now that I know about irregular periods, I was walking to a garage. This woman wearing beautiful white pants, she had blotted into her pants. I saw it. I responded differently compared to before because then I knew that possibly this is what she is experiencing. Then I went to her, greeted her, and I did explain that I hope she doesn't take this in a bad way. But can she go to the bathroom and just have a look? She's got like some staining on her pants. And she was obviously taken aback, but then she was appreciative also because of how he approached her. So it is important that once men know, then they still also obviously are aware, and even us as women, that manner of approach plays a huge role, how you make a person feel as
Absolutely.
you are giving that right support.
Absolutely.
And also sometimes ask, what support do you need from me?
Yeah.
Because everyone has got a different preference. Do you want us to talk about it? Do you wait for me to bring it up? Do you prefer a sense of humor? Can we go on a walk? Then you change of environment. It inspires different conversations, but you don't assume that it's a one-size-fits-all approach.
Your knowledge is, your experience is just so wide and so amazing. And thank you so much for coming along. Your knowledge, your experience, there's on a topic that is so wide, has really been so valuable, really. So I wish you so well in your work, spreading this knowledge all over Africa, South Africa, and helping people helping women navigate this change in their lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time.